So when we're talking about metric units of mass, there is a special unit for this. This is the last of the three base units in the metric system. When we're talking about linear measurements, the base unit was a meter. When we're talking about volume measurements, the base unit was a liter. And now when we're talking about mass, the base unit is going to be a gram. And the nice thing about grams is these behave exactly like liters and meters did. To do conversions between different gram measurements, all I'm going to do is look at the prefixes and move the decimal point around. So I've got a question for us to look at here. How many grams are there in 12.51 decagrams? Okay, well, if we write out our prefixes, there's kilograms, hectograms, decagrams, grams, decigrams, centigrams, and milligrams. So I want to go from decagrams to grams. So that's going from here to here. That's one step to the right. So I'm going to take my number here, 12.51, move the decimal point in the same direction, and this becomes 125.1 grams. Now, there is a special mass relationship that you should be aware of, and it involves water. Right? Water is such a common thing, especially in biology and chemistry applications, right? That it's nice to have this specific conversion factor just for it, right? And the relationship is in this first line here. 1 cubic centimeter is equal to 1 milliliter. Now, we saw that earlier when we were talking about volume, and that is true all the time for everything, not just water. The second part, relating volume to mass, that's the special bit. So when we're talking about water, 1 milliliter of water is also equal to 1 gram of water. Right, so we can get some other useful conversions here. If we take this equivalence and multiply through by 1,000, and this turns into 1,000 cubic centimeters equals 1,000 milliliters equals 1,000 grams. 1,000 milliliters, that's a liter. 1,000 grams is a kilogram. And so that gives us this second relationship. 1,000 cubic centimeters of water is equal to 1 kilogram of water. So how about this last one here? Suppose I take this equation again, and I'm gonna ignore the liter part here. I'm just gonna look at the cubic centimeters and the kilograms. And again, we multiply by 1,000, and this becomes 1 million cubic centimeters is equal to 1,000 kilograms. Right, and remember back when we were talking about area, we wanted to do conversions with different metric units for area. For example, square meters to square centimeters. We still counted the number of changes in the prefix, right? But instead of moving the decimal point one step for each prefix change, we moved it two steps, right? So to go from square meters to square decimeters, instead of moving it one step, we moved it two. Same thing applies here to volume. Okay, volume is a cubic measurement. So for each step, for each prefix change, I'm going to move the decimal point three places. All right, so take a look at where that gets us here with centimeters, and cubic meters. So if I have cubic meters, next would be cubic decimeters, then cubic centimeters. So to go from cubic centimeters to cubic meters, I have two prefix steps. So I'm going to move 2 times 3, it's going to be 6 decimal places to the left. So if I do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, look at that, I end up with 1. So 1 cubic meter of water is exactly equal to 1,000 kilograms of water. All right, so look at my question down here, right? A recipe calls for 120 milliliters of water. In British recipes, European recipes, you will actually see it done this way, right? I mean, they use the metric system more or less exclusively. So I mean, you'll see recipes that say 120 milliliters of water. Now, when I'm trying to work with one of those recipes, I don't have a graduated cylinder in my kitchen, so I really don't have any way to measure milliliters. But I do have a kitchen scale, so I can measure grams. So if I use this conversion up here, again, this is the metric system being really, really nice to you. Milliliters and grams are interchangeable. So 120 milliliters of water is exactly equal to 120 grams of water. And that's something I can measure out on my scale. Okay, so in the next lecture, we're going to look at some examples of some applications, see some situations where you might actually need to do these unit conversions in the real world.